In the 22nd century, the United Planets cruiser C-57D, en route to Altair on a significant mission, is 1 year away from Earth base. Commander J.J. Adams instructs the crew to prepare for deceleration as the ship transitions from light speed to regular space. Adams directs pilot Jerry Farman to set a course for the fourth planet. Subsequently, the captain briefs the crew that they have arrived at their destination, with the objective of searching for any survivors from the Bellerophon expedition that took place 2 decades ago. As they enter the orbit, searching for signs of life, the ship undergoes scanning by an extensive radar facility spanning about 20 square miles. Morbius, hailing from the planet, contacts the ship and questions their purpose there. Morbius explains that he requires no assistance, offers no guarantees of safety, and advises against landing. Adams acknowledges Morbius as a former crew member, but finds himself puzzled by the enigmatic warning. Despite Morbius's objections, the ship is determined to land, and he provides the pilot with coordinates within a desert region of the planet. The ship touches down, and security personnel swiftly take their positions. Suddenly, a rapid dust cloud approaches, revealing itself to be a speeding vehicle. Adams realizes it is a robot, driven by Robbie. With a warm welcome, Robbie invites the crew to Morbius's dwelling at Altair 4. Adams, Farman, and Doc Ostro make their way to Morbius's residence and receive a warm welcome. They gather around for a meal which Robbie's food synthesizer prepares. Morbius proudly demonstrates Robbie's impressive capabilities, showcasing his unwavering obedience. Curiously, Morbius hands a blaster to Robbie, ordering him to shoot Adams. However, Robbie refuses and enters a mechanical state of inaction until the command is altered. Morbius proceeds to unveil the defensive features of the house, a series of sturdy steel shutters. When questioned, Morbius confesses that the crew of the Bellerophon expedition has perished, leaving Morbius and his late wife as the sole survivors. Morbius explains that some members of the crew met a gruesome fate, torn apart by an unknown creature or force dwelling on the planet. The Bellerophon itself was obliterated when the last 3 surviving members attempted to depart for Earth. Adams ponders the puzzling question of why the dormant force on the planet never attacked Morbius throughout the years. As the discussions continue, a young woman named Altera introduces herself as Morbius's daughter. Farman becomes immediately captivated by Altera and starts flirting with her. Altera proceeds to demonstrate her remarkable ability to tame wild animals, gently petting a fierce tiger. Meanwhile, the ship periodically checks on the safety of the away party. Adams realizes the need to establish contact with Earth for further instructions and begins making preparations to send a signal. However, due to the substantial power requirement, the ship will be rendered inoperable for about 10 days. Morbius expresses distress at this extended downtime and offers Robbie assistance in constructing the communication facility. The following day, Robbie arrives at the ship while the crew unloads the engine to power the transmitter. To ease the tension, the commander playfully directs the crane operator to lift Cookie and move him out of the way. Quinn interrupts the light-hearted moment to report that the assembly is finished, and they will be able to transmit it in the morning. While Cookie searches for Robbie, he arranges for the robot to create some bourbon. Robbie tests a sample and promises Cookie that he can have 60 gallons ready the next morning. Farman continues to woo Altair by teaching her how to kiss and highlighting the health benefits of kissing. Adams interrupts their session and displays annoyance, likely due to jealousy. He then tells Altair that her attire is inappropriate around his crew. Altair tries to argue, but Adams loses his temper and orders her to leave the area. That night, still angry, Altair shares the incident with her father. Taking Adams's advice to heart, Altair instructs Robbie to make a dress that reveals less. Meanwhile, back on the ship, 2 security guards think they hear breathing in the darkness, but cannot see anything. Inside the spaceship, a crew member who is half asleep notices that the inner hatch is open, and some things have been moved around. The next morning, the captain discusses the events of the previous night. Quinn informs the captain that most of the missing and damaged equipment can be replaced, except for the klystron monitor. The captain and the doctor become angry and decide to confront Morbius about what happened. Since Morbius is unavailable, the captain and the doctor decide to wait for him. Outside, Adams spots Altair swimming and approaches her. Mistaking her for being naked, Adams becomes flustered and uneasy until he realizes that Altair wants to show him her new dress. Altair asks why Adams refuses to kiss her like everyone else has. Eventually, Adams gives in and kisses her. Suddenly, a tiger emerges from the forest and attacks Altair. Adams reacts quickly by shooting the tiger. Altair is deeply troubled by the incident, as the tiger was her friend, and she cannot understand why it attacked her, as if she were an enemy. Upon returning to the house, Doc and Adams accidentally open Morbius's office and discover a series of strange drawings. However, Morbius suddenly appears through a hidden door and becomes furious at the intrusion. Adams explains the damage caused to the ship the previous night and expresses his suspicion that Morbius may be involved in the attack. Morbius acknowledges that it is time for explanations. He proceeds to tell them about a race of beings called the Krell who once inhabited the planet. These beings had visited Earth in the past, which explains the presence of Earth animals on the planet. According to Morbius, the Krell civilization mysteriously collapsed in a single night, just as they were on the verge of their greatest discovery. Today, after 2,000 centuries, there are no remnants of their cities above ground. Morbius then takes Doc and Adams on a tour of the underground Krell installation. He first shows them a device used for projecting knowledge, explaining how he began to piece together information from it. Then he shows them an educational device to project images formed in the mind. Finally, Morbius elaborates on the original purpose of the Krell and highlights the vast difference in intelligence between humans and the Krell. Doc attempts the intelligence tester, but is perplexed when it doesn't register as high as Morbius's score. Morbius then explains that the device can also enhance intelligence, recounting how the captain of the Bellerophon died while using it. Morbius himself suffered severe injuries, but upon recovery, his IQ had doubled. Adams raises a question about the pristine condition of all the equipment. Morbius clarifies that the machines left on the planet are capable of self-repair. He takes them on a tour of the rest of the installation, starting with a massive air vent that leads to the planet's core. There are 400 similar shafts in the vicinity, along with 9,200 thermal reactors spread across an area of 8,000 cubic miles. Later that night, the crew finalizes the security arrangements and tests the force field fence. Cookie seeks permission to venture beyond the fence and encounters Robbie, who presents him with the promised 60 gallons of bourbon. Outside, an unknown object collides with the fence, causing it to malfunction. The security team investigates the breach but discovers nothing. Strange foot-shaped impressions begin appearing, leading toward the spaceship. Something unseen manages to enter the ship, and a scream echoes through the compound. Meanwhile, at the Morbius residence, a heated argument ensues about who should have control over the Krell technology and its transfer back to Earth. During the discussion, Adams receives a message informing him that Chief Quinn has been killed. Adams abruptly ends the conversation and rushes back to the ship. Later that night, Doc discovers the footprints and creates a cast of them. The footprints defy logical evolution, combining characteristics of both a four-legged and bipedal creature. Furthermore, they suggest a mix of predatory and herbivorous traits. Adams interrogates Cookie, who was present with the robot during the incident, and concludes that the robot is not responsible for the events. During Chief's funeral, Morbius once again warns Adams about the imminent danger that awaits the ship and its crew. Adams takes it as a challenge and spends the entire day strengthening the defensive position around the ship. After testing the weapons and feeling confident in their preparations, the radar station suddenly detects movement in the distance, slowly approaching the ship. Despite the weapons being under radar control, nobody can see anything. The radar controller confirms a direct hit on the detected object, but it continues to move closer to the ship. Suddenly, something strikes the force field fence, revealing a gigantic monster outlined by the energy flux. The crew opens fire, but their efforts seem to have little effect. 2 crew members venture forward but are quickly killed. Pilot Farman rushes in but meets the same fate. Morbius wakes up upon hearing Altair's screams. She had a dream that resembled the attack that just occurred. As Morbius awakens, the creature within the force field vanishes. Doc speculates that the creature is composed of some form of energy, constantly renewing itself moment by moment. Adams takes Doc on a tractor to visit Morbius with the intention of evacuating him from the planet. He gives orders for the ship to be prepared for takeoff. If they don't return in time, the ship should leave without them. They also plan to break into Morbius's office and take the brain booster test. At the door, they are intercepted by Robbie, who disarms them. Altair arrives and counteracts her father's orders given to Robbie. Seizing the opportunity, Doc secretly enters the office. Altair argues with Adams about persuading Morbius to leave the planet and eventually confesses her love for him. Robbie reappears, carrying the injured Doc. Struggling to speak and in intense pain, Doc explains that Krell successfully conducted a major experiment. However, they overlooked the subconscious monsters they would unleash, the monsters from the ID. Morbius discovers the lifeless body of Doc and makes offensive remarks. Altair reminds him that Doc is dead, but Morbius's lack of concern convinces Altair that she is better off leaving with Adams. Morbius tries to dissuade Adams from taking Altair away. Adams demands an explanation about the monsters from the ID. Morbius realizes that he is the source of the creature that has been killing everyone. The machine created by Krell had the power to unleash his inner beast, the hidden monster dwelling within his ancestral mind. Their discussion is interrupted by Robbie, who informs them of something approaching the house. Morbius activates the defensive shields of the house, but the creature manages to break through them. Morbius then commands Robbie to destroy the creature, but Robbie malfunctions. Adams explains that it is futile. Robbie knows that the true threat is Morbius himself. Adams, Altair, and Morbius seek refuge in the Krell laboratory and secure themselves behind an incredibly strong door. Adams convinces Morbius that he is in fact the monster and cannot control his subconscious desires. The group anxiously observes as the creature gradually burns its way through the door. Morbius, filled with panic, begs Altair to deny the truth. Suddenly, he fully comprehends the danger he poses and realizes that he could harm or even kill Altair. Just as the creature breaks through, Morbius impulsively denies its existence. Miraculously, the creature vanishes, but Morbius sustains a fatal injury. With his dying words, he instructs Adams to activate a self-destruct mechanism connected to the machine's reactors. The ship and its crew have 24 hours to escape as far as possible from the planet. Altair and others board the ship and notice the planet getting brighter and brighter as it gets destroyed. Adams assures Altair that her father's memory will always shine brightly in their hearts.